Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to Caspio Live. It's Ned. If you've attended my previous Caspio Lives, say hello. Welcome back. We are officially back with the Caspio Live. I know it's been almost a year since we had our last live stream, but thanks to your inquiries, either via forums or to your support rep, the management team has heard you and they've decided to bring back and resurrect the Caspia Live. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here and host the live stream for you. If you are able to hear me, please let me know via chat so that I know that my audio is working correctly and that we can commence with today's Caspia Live. I'm going to type something inside the chat window as well. So if you are able to hear me, please let me know. A name, you can hear me? Excellent. Good to know. Yeah. Idita, hey, you can hear me as well? Excellent. Good. I think I need to answer the obvious question for today's live stream is now the Caspio platform has two unique different app building frameworks, Bridge and Flex. Where are we going to take this live stream? Hey, Steven, good to see you again. Yeah, it's been a while. So where do we take the live stream moving forward? The main focus is going to be the Flex framework. However, I know and I understand that a lot of you who attend my live streams are Bridge users, so I will try to strike a balance between both frameworks. I'm not going to leave you in the dark. I know that we've done close to 100 live streams just on Bridge, but because Flex is new and exciting, we want to make that the main focus for Caspio Live. And I think the feature that I'm going to show you today inside the Flex framework, which is going to be available in the next 2 or 3 days in our release 60, I think a lot of people are going to be excited about it. And in my opinion, and this is going to be a controversial take, that single feature will surpass Bridge. Let me put it that way. Okay, it just makes applications much more efficient from the app user perspective. Okay, and you will see that today. All right, let me know if you have any questions for me before we begin. As the title states, we are going to build a project management application in today's live stream using the Flex framework. As you can see, I am already inside the Flex tab. I'm going to give you a quick demo of the application as always, and then we're going to go inside and build it. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to build today. I'm just going to freestyle and see what I can do as per usual. But we're going to try to get at least 80% done in today's live stream. Whatever I don't finish, we will probably carry that over to the next live stream to complete the app. But at least you're going to have a good foundation on how to set up the project management app. Now, all project management applications are different. They're case by case, right? Depending on your company, the workflow, how your organization is structured, you might build your project management app entirely differently. Okay, but for my use case today, I would like to make all team members project managers, so anyone can be a project owner, and then we can add team members to that project, and we can assign tasks to our team members, and of course we can follow up on tasks and things like that. All right, so shall we take a look at the demo? I don't see any questions coming in, so let me show you the application. So I am logged in as John Doe. He is one of the employees. Is this live? What do you mean, Didier, is this live? Can you elaborate on that question, please? We are actually live, so we're going to build this application live today inside the Flex framework. Yeah, thanks, Didier. Good to see you. All right, so let's take a look. We have all the projects listed inside Manage Projects. And what we can do is we can create a new project. And here's the feature that I was talking about just a few minutes ago. So when we click on that button, it's going to have a pop-up here in the middle where we can quickly add a project. And we can move that screen left, right, up, down. So that sometimes we want to be able to see things in the background. So we want to be able to move that screen. Now, in Bridge, it takes quite a bit to get this set up. I did provide a solution for everyone to just copy and paste inside a data page, but it's a little bit technically challenging to do so if you're not a developer. But now inside the Flex framework, with just a click of a button, you can have this effect. We're calling it the window overlay, but it's also referred to as the modal pop-up or just a pop-up. Yeah, so this will replace it, but it's only available in the Flex framework, not in Bridge. Okay, in Bridge, it's a little bit more difficult to make that happen because the data pages are embedded in your own website, whereas in Flex, everything is hosted by Caspio. Okay. This will be available in about 2 days or 3 days, depending on the site. So it will be available. I mean, the release is happening tomorrow, Thursday, so it might take a few days depending on where you're located, you know. So it will be available in your account very quickly in the next few days. But there's more to it. Okay, there's a lot more to it. And I'll show you that in just a moment. So let's go inside the details of this project, let's say. And I think, hold on one second, let me just do a refresh here. Yeah, so once we're inside the details of a project, of course, typically we can see the project details, we can see all the tasks, and we can see all the project members that have been assigned to that project. Now, what we can do is we can quickly edit a project. Okay, we can also add a new member to this project if we wanted to. The nice feature that we have here now is this window overlay. When you select a user and you hit submit, you can keep this window open until you're done adding all of your information, and then you can close the window. Or you can have it automatically close as soon as you add the user or some other information. So you have two different destinations available upon submission, and that's always very, very helpful. And of course, we can add a task as well. And then we can only select the users that are part of this project, as you can see them here listed on the right-hand side. Okay, so if they're not added to the project, we won't be able to select them from this dropdown. And then we have title, description, due date, all of that typical stuff that you would see in a task management app. Now, I could have also added these buttons in these data parts. So if I wanted to, I could have added this button up here, and I could have added add task up here, but I kept it here in the project details just to clone and mimic HubSpot as much as possible. We use HubSpot, and all of the buttons are located inside one window, and then it adds the information to other windows here. Yeah, so this was a very highly requested feature, and it's now going to be available, which honestly, like it's so easy. You will see just how easy it is to set this up inside the account. Okay, so with that, we have manage tasks, and we can always filter data using some fields. We can see the tasks here, and then if I want to update a task, I can click on that button, and that will allow me to update the task. However, the way I've set up my permissions, if you're not a task owner for that task, you don't have the rights to edit that. But if you are the owner of that task, let me just see assigned to John Doe. I am logged in as John Doe, so if we update it, we should be able to edit that information. That's the way I've set it up. And inside a dashboard page, of course, you can make this much more comprehensive and you can expand upon it. I just put together a few data parts just to show you how you can put together a simple dashboard with some KPIs. All we see here is, projects by status per project owner, so we can see how many projects each user has and where it's at in the pipeline, if it's on hold, in progress, all that good stuff. These are my tasks. I can expand upon that. We are using simple grouping, and then my projects that are in progress and currently not started. And of course, all of these, you can go inside the details. So for example, the one that's in progress, we can go into details. It's going to bring up that same page where we can see all the tasks. Now, I know this is not loading very quickly. It's because we're going through that release process. But this will load once the release is finished and when they make all the final changes. Honestly, I am in my preview account right now. This is not even live in production. That's why there might be some bugs, but I really wanted to show you this feature because it is going to be available here very shortly, and it's super exciting. That's the only reason why I'm doing that. If this was coming out in a month or 2 months, there's no way I would be able to show you this, but because it's coming out here around the corner, that's the only reason why I'm showing you this feature today. All right, so with that said, let me know if you have any questions before I go in and show you how to build all this out. So the first thing you're going to want to do is select the Flex framework, obviously, and we're going to work inside this application container. And if you've attended my previous live streams, you know that we don't build the tables from scratch because that's too time consuming. But I am going to go through each table one at a time to show you the fields and the data types so that you understand the structure, because it is really important to have the table set up correctly from the start. And this particular application has 7 tables. A few of these are just lookup tables, so don't feel too intimidated when you see how many tables I have. The main table, well, not the main table, but the user table is this one up here. And this ties directly into our directory. So if I click on the burger menu and we go to directories, here is my user table. Directory, essentially, it's a table where you store all of your user information. So that's going to be your first step, okay, is to set up your directory where you plan on storing all of your user information. And inside my directory, I have 5 employees. John, Ken, Raj, Sarah, and Victoria. Okay, so initially you want to do that first. And when you set up your directory initially, that table is not going to be part of your application. So what you have to do, you have to go to data. You want to look for that table. Let me just find it really quickly. Flex. So this is the table. That's my directory. You want to click on more and just simply share the table with the application. And when you do that, then you're going to be able to see that table listed inside the app. So let me go back inside it, go to tables, and then you will be able to see that table show up over here. Okay. And it's a simple table. I only have a few fields. First name, last name, full name, email, password, and that's all I have in there. Okay. The next table I'm going to show you is the projects table. So this is more or less one of the 2 main tables that I have. The next one will be the tasks. But this one here has the project ID. That's a unique key, okay? Because when we create the project, we have to assign a unique key to each project. You know, that's just database standards, okay? Then we have the project name, project description, project owner. So when we create the project, we want to select the employee's name, but in the table, it's going to store the ID, okay? We want to be able to associate the projects to the owners. We have start date, end date, status, and date created. So all common fields that you would typically see. Then we have our task table. And inside this table, we have the task ID. That's the unique key. We have the project ID because each project can have many tasks. We have assigned to ID. Who is this task assigned to? To which one of our employees? Title, description, due date, status, priority, and created by ID. So who created the task? Now, because this is a many-to-many, we have a joining table between the projects, okay, and the users. So let's go and open up the project members. All right, so if you've set up a many-to-many before, if you do just a basic one-to-many, you need 2 tables. Right? So you have, let's say, 1 customer, many orders. That's 2 tables. You have 1 project, many tasks. That's 2 tables. However, in this use case, 1 member can belong to more than 1 project. So we need a many-to-many, a joining table between our 2 tables. And what you're doing is simply adding the project ID and the user ID to that joining table. Okay? Because 1 project can have many members, but 1 member can belong to more than 1 project. Okay, and that's standard in a project management application. And then we have a formula field to remove all or to avoid having duplicates, because you cannot have the same member assigned to the same project more than once. Okay, once you assign that member to a project, they already belong to that project, so you don't want to be able to submit them again into that joining table. And my formula field is very simple. Actually, all we need, I don't know why this was added. We really just need that. Okay, so we want to get the project ID plus the user ID to be stored inside our joining table. Right? Because once the project ID and the user ID exist in that table, you will never be able to have those same IDs twice inside that table. Okay, so that's the idea behind it. Verify the formula, looks good, and we'll just save this table. Yeah, proceed. All right, so let's take a look at a few other tables that we have. So we can look at some of our status tables. So this one here just has the project status. You know, you're going to have your own naming convention for your own statuses. Then we also have the task status, okay, which are exactly the same. And let's see if I'm missing anything. And then priorities, probably low, medium, high, and critical. So you can track tasks based on priority. And that's it for my tables. Okay, let me know if you have any questions on tables. Hey, King Capo, good to see you as well. But always important to have the foundation built correctly. The tables are the critical piece to having a successful application in any database software, okay? If you have to spend more time building your application on any one of these parts, it's always going to be the tables. Very crucial to have the tables set up correctly from the get-go. And then let's go into relationships. And I've simply connected my tables here. And I'm going to go through this very quickly. So we have our user table. Okay. I drew this line from the user table to this one here, which is project members. Okay. So these are all the members that belong to a project. And I connected the user ID to user ID. And I've decided to display the full name. For most of these, I'm displaying the full name because when I build my app later on, let's say I build my report based on this table, I want to be able to display the full name on the report rather than the ID. So that's the main reason why I like to draw these lines, because we have the setting and the option to choose the full name as the display value and use that display value on our data pages or data parts. Okay, the user ID is also linked to my task because I want to be able to see who that task is assigned to. I want to be able to see the full name. I also want to be able to see the full name of who created that task. So as you can see, for all these connections, I'm using the full name as the display value from my user table. And we also have here for the project owner. So these are the projects. I am stamping the user ID inside the project owner table. And again, I am simply just displaying the full name as display value. And then because I also want to be able to see the project name, when I build my report based on the task table, I don't want to see the project ID. I'd rather see the project name. So I make this connection between the projects table and the task table so that I can grab the project name. This is the project title. Okay, so you can see when I double click on that connection, I am using the project name as the display value. Okay, very helpful when building reports. That way we can at least pull the information from the parent table and display, you know, anything from that parent table and replace the ID with that information from the parent table. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. Now we can jump into roles. And this specific application is going to have two roles. We're going to have the admin level and we're going to have the user level. Users are going to be all project managers. They can all create a project. And each one of these project owners is going to be able to add members to the project, create tasks, all of that. So let's set up our roles. The first one we're going to do is admin, and we're going to link to our directory that we created. Okay, so let's find it. This one here has 5 users inside it. Click create. And for my default permissions, typically admins will have permissions to do anything if you choose to do that. So we want them to be able to create data. We want them to be able to read data, update anything. And if you want to, you can also have them be able to delete anything within the application. So we're just going to save that. And then for my users, let's add a user to my admin group. And let's make maybe Sarah Smith be the admin of this application. Okay. All right, let's create another role. And we're going to call this one users. And again, we're going to link to the same directory. Click create. And then now we're going to have some custom permissions on this one. If you recall from my live demo, I logged in as John Doe. Now, John Doe can only update the tasks that he is assigned to. Okay, and I should also only be able to update my projects that I'm a project owner of. Okay, so before I create my permissions here, let's go into users and let's add users. And we're going to have John, Ken, Raj, Victoria all be the users of our application. So we have one admin and we have 4 users. Okay, now for permissions, we're going to add some custom permissions here. Okay, so let's add custom permissions on the projects table and custom permissions on the task table. So for my projects table, everyone should be able to create a project. Okay, everyone should be able to see projects. But when it comes to updating, I only want to be able to update the projects that I'm a project owner of. Remember, this one stamps the project ID. Sorry, the user ID. Okay, and click save. And then for delete, I'll leave this up to you. I mean, it's to each their own, right? So if you want your users to be able to delete projects or delete tasks, that's entirely up to you. Okay, I'm just going to say no. Now for my task table, everyone should be able to create a task. Everyone should be able to read tasks, but not everyone should, sorry, it's down here, but not everyone should be able to update somebody else's task. So we only update our own tasks that are linked to our user ID or that we're assigned to. Okay, click OK. And yeah, let's save it. Now for the default permissions, we can just say yes to be able to create, and I'm okay with all of the other ones. We can always adjust the default permissions later on, but let's save it because the default permissions are going to be applied to all tables, right? But for this one, in this one, we want to have some custom permissions where we can only update our own tasks or our own projects. All right, so let's go into Designer, and inside the Designer tab is where we're going to be able to build everything out. Okay, so we have our two segments, admin and users. Now, when you create the role is automatically tied to a segment, which is created inside the Designer tab. We're not going to have any public-facing interfaces, right? So nothing is going to be public-facing. Everything is going to be password protected, so you can just disregard that segment. You can collapse it and just forget about it, but you cannot remove it. It has to be in here, just in case at some point you do want to add some public-facing data parts. Good question, Abby. Yes, the recording is going to be available on our YouTube channel after the Caspio Live concludes. Okay, so that's a good question. Let me take a look at the question. What are the advantages of building the app versus using out-of-the-box product managed solution like Trello, Asana? Okay, so that's a great question. A lot of these off-the-shelf kind of tools and products have too many bells and whistles that people might not need, okay? And they also charge a lot per user. Where you think about it, Caspio gives you unlimited users for a set fee, so you don't have to pay per user fees, right? Think about Asana. I don't know how much they charge per user. Let's say, hypothetically, it's $20 per user. If your company has 100 employees that need to use the application, 20 times 100, you can do the math, it's $2,000, right? Versus Caspio, you pay $300 and you get unlimited users. And on top of that, you can customize the application exactly how you want. Okay, so you don't have to worry about all the other bells and whistles that come with Asana and all of these other OTS products. Okay, so those are the two main drivers of why somebody might want to customize their application and build their own solution versus going with off-the-shelf solutions. But great question, okay? All right, so let's begin. We're going to spend most of the building inside the Users tab, and I am going to begin by building out an app page that, let's say, allows us to manage our projects. Okay, so we're going to add an app page called Manage Projects. I want you to think about these app pages like web pages. Okay, essentially they're web pages because when you build it, you're going to be able to add all of these forms and reports into your app page. Okay, so we're going to select the user segment, and we're going to be able to see that app page created. Now, as soon as you create the app page, you're going to be able to see it up here as part of your navigation menu. Okay, and as you add additional app pages, the navigation menu will expand. But you can group all of these navigation menus. If you want to create a parent menu with the sub menu, you have the option to do that as well. If you want to modify anything up here in the header, you can click on segment, either by clicking it here or selecting the user segment up here, and that gives you access to edit any of the information up here in the header. Okay, so if you want to replace the logo, you can do that as well. Okay, I'm just going to keep the default one down here. If you want to add, let's say, maybe like a welcome John Doe or something like that, you can go to add elements maybe move in the text HTML, you can put that in here next to the logo. And now you can remove that and you can just say maybe welcome, comma, or maybe signed in as, and then you insert simply, oh, I need to see, I think because the preview is not updated yet, but usually you should be able to see the user GUID field that allows you to insert the actual name of the employee that's logged in. That's interesting. Okay. I think the preview site is still being updated. So what we can just say, let's see, auth field. I think I called it full name. We'll see if it works. And of course, you can make that smaller, you know, font size. If you want to change the font type, the size, up to you. Maybe change that to 12 pixels, bold, so it stands out a little bit, and you click finish. And then when the user logs in, you're going to be able to see signed in, and it's going to bring their full name into the portal when they log in. Now let's build some data parts. You select the app page, and you're going to add elements to it. And let's start with the search form. We want to be able to search our projects. We're going to select that table, and let's search based on project name. We can search based on status and project owner. We're going to hit next. Of course, you can include other fields if you'd like. Project name. Now, I'm a big fan of using, in the appearance tab, I'm a big fan of using the float labels, which initially puts the label inside the field, but when you click inside the field, it takes the label out and puts it in the border above so that you can see what you're typing. So that's my preference. Yeah, I think we're going to leave it at that. Status, we have our drop down, again, in the appearance tab, float, and then we're going to select that to be a drop down, and I'm just simply going to look up the table that has all of our statuses, and I don't want the sort to change this. I don't want it a random order of my statuses. I want it exactly like it's in my table, so that's why I put sort by none, so that if I have in my table not started, in progress, it's going to keep it exactly how it is in my table. That's why I select none here. For project owner, once again, we're going to select drop down, look up table, and then it's going to link to our user table. And we want full name, and then we want to, because the full name is tied to a user GUID, it's going to use the value. We're going to use the user GUID as the value. But the full name is just for display so that we can see the actual name of the employee. And really, that's all I want to do, except in the appearance tab. Again, we want to do float, click save, and it should display the search form for me up here. Now, one thing that I will do is simply make this a little bit more narrow. So I like to put my search form to the left, and then I like to put my results in the middle here. Just like in my live example, if you look over here, you will see my search form to the left and my results here in the middle. But you could also have, you can stack them one on top of the other if you like. A couple of more changes that I like to make here is, number one is best practice. Always get into a habit of naming your data parts right away. So drill that in. As soon as you create the data part, you will see new data part. Rename that. And the way I like to name these is based on my segment. I will call it user, filter, project. I will hit save, and there's the name above my data part. The reason why we do that is when it comes to creating filters later on, we want to be able to find that name very quickly. So instead of it being called new data part, we don't know what that is. Now we know that we want to grab the filtering or the field from another data part based on the name. So it's much easier to find. Also, I always like to add a heading to my forms. So I can say filter tasks, or sorry, filter projects. Like that. Just click back inside your app page to see it. It's going to show up here in just a moment. Now, the headings to me are too big. Okay, I'm very particular when it comes to the aesthetics, so I like to just simply add a span tag. By the way, that is HTML compatible. Eventually, this is all going to be point and click. You're going to be able to select your own size directly from here, but for now, as a workaround, we can just say span style equals font size, and I'm just going to make that 18 pixels. Close the span at the end, And when you click inside, you'll see this font change really quickly here. When you click back inside, you will see how much smaller it is. Now, if you want to see what this looks like already on your website, you can just click on deployment. Okay, expand a user segment, toggle that button on, and just go to it. And we are going to have to log in here. So let's log in as John Doe at company.com. And as soon as we log in, okay, so it is working. You can see how it pulled in my full name, but we should be able to select that from the app parameter, which I'm confused. But I'm thinking it's something to do with the preview site that I'm on. As they're making changes now for this release, that's why it's not visible, but it still worked, okay? And there's my search form. Okay, we have the project name, we have our statuses, and project owner, which pulls the information from the user table. Let me take a look at my questions here that are coming in. Hey, Aralee. Let me see. Search forms and details pages should be made as widgets and not data parts. It will make Flex less expensive. Search forms and details should be made as widgets and not data parts. I see. Because widgets today are only added to the header, left panel, right panel, and the footer area. This is true. If you think about it from the Bridge perspective, in Bridge, you're right. In Bridge, you can have one data page be search results and details. So that is correct. But maybe it's just the way the Flex framework was built. There was no way to do that, especially because we wanted to be able to move the search form around and the results page so that you can, put them side by side or stack them one on top of the other. Maybe they looked at that and figured out maybe it makes more sense to have them separated so that people can organize these data parts however they want. But it's a good question. I can definitely find out the answer from the product team. All right, let's build our report. Okay, very quickly. So let's go into our designer. Once again, we click on the app page and we're going to add a new element. And this time we're going to add a tabular report based on the projects table. And then we just have to ask a simple question. What information do we want to display? So I would like to have the project name, maybe project owner, start date, end date, status, and perhaps date created. Click next. Do I need to make any modifications to my labels? No, I do not. We're going to hit save. And now I will just change the size of this report and I will move it up. So they're side by side. Again, make sure you rename this. Let's go ahead and click on the pencil icon and call this users project results. Save it. Once again, if you don't want to write out that span each time manually, what you can do, type it out once, put this in your notepad somewhere, save it. You can always copy it, come back here, paste it, and just rename this to maybe project results. Click back in here, and we should be able to see it. All right. And now we need to connect them because it's not going to work. Even though it's on the website, we need to set up the filters. We have our search form, but if I select the status, let's say not started, and I hit search, nothing is going to happen until you set up the filters on the results page. So let's go back inside the designer, click on filters, create the filter, and you can see the filtering field that you're using. So let's start with the project name, and that's going to be a text field. So let's use contains because when you type in a letter, let's say you only know a few letters of that project or the name, and you want to have a more broad results range, use contains as opposed to equal. Okay, so use contains. Let's use the data part field. Remember, we're building the filter on this data part, okay? You're going to select now manage projects app page. So that's your app page. And then user filter projects, which is the one over here. Okay, that's the name that we gave it, filter projects. And this is why it's important to name your data parts. Because imagine when you have a lot of data parts and they're all called new data part, you're not going to know which data part to select. So that's why it's very important that you name your data parts as soon as you build them. Okay, so now I know I need to select this data part, project name, and click save. I have two additional fields. So let's build another filter. And this time we have status. It's going to be equal to, because we're using a drop down, their static values, is equal to data part field select your app page, select the data part, and status field. And last but not least, we have project owner is equal to data part field, manage projects, project owner, click save, and you are done. And now it should work. So let's come back here, reload. So if I select the status in progress, it should filter out on the right all the projects that are in progress. If I reset it, brings everything back. Next, let's add the button to create our projects. Let me make sure I don't have any questions coming in. Oh, the rules are also around the corner. We don't have rules yet like in Bridge, but the team is working on that, okay? So we are going to have rules, and also something very cool that we're going to have are tabs. So in the details page in my other live example that I demoed earlier, we will have the ability to do tabs, which means you can group all of these data parts into tabs. So project details, one tab, second tab is going to be the task results, and the third tab is going to be project members. And then you can tab between each one of these data parts, and it really makes it easy to consolidate everything on the screen. Visually, it's going to look much nicer if you want to go that route. You don't have to, but it's going to be available. And the rules are also coming. So the team is working very diligently and fast to eliminate the gap in terms of features between Bridge and Flex. And very shortly here, I think Flex is going to surpass and eclipse Bridge in terms of features and capabilities. Yeah, you can create automation in Caspio. We have a number of different ways to create automation. Also a very good question, okay? Where you can have triggered actions, where if you add something to your table, you can have something else happen in another table, okay? Usually used for audits and history logs. Or you can use AI now. We have AI built into the platform that connects to OpenAI, and we have quite a few videos that I've done on that. So if I can show you later on a different example, it's a patient portal healthcare app where you can see how AI comes into play. But for now, let's continue building our project management application. I want to be able to create a button up here that allows me to have a window overlay for me to input a project. So back here, manage projects. We're going to set up a new app page, add project. Oh, there is my newly added app page. Now, I always like to go into deployment right away and deploy each one of these app pages. Now, keep in mind that very soon here, we're going to be able to click on these three dots and quickly deploy this app page directly from here so that you don't have to navigate to deployment, enable it, navigate back. That's a few extra clicks. Nobody wants that. Just keep in mind very shortly, you will have the ability to deploy directly from here. So now add project. When you add an app page, you're going to be able to see two types. If you want a regular app page, it's going to look just like that, just like the one that we just built for managed projects. However, you now have window overlay or overlay window, which is really cool. So we have add project. We are going to add an element, and let's have a submission form. Also, by the way, you can have multiple data parts added to these window overlays. It doesn't have to be just one. And I will show you an example later in our live stream on how why it's so helpful to have multiple data parts inside these pop-ups. So let's add a submission form to it, projects, and we want to be able to add project name, description. We want to be able to assign the project to the owner, start date, end date, and status as well. Click next. So project name, appearance, again, I'm a big fan of using the float labels. That's probably going to be a required field, meaning you have to fill that in before you can hit submit. Project description, likely going to be a text area, also a required field, and in the appearance tab, make it float. Project owner is going to be a dropdown. Okay, it automatically selects the user table, displays the full name, but upon submission, it's going to stamp the ID of that user in the table. Again, float, and make sure you select that to be a required field. Start date, required field, float, end date, float, required field, and last but not least, we have status. So appearance, float, required field, select that to be a dropdown, and we can just look up a table that displays all of the statuses. And again, I'm going to select none. And that's it. We're going to hit save. Okay. Again, name your data parts, users, add project, click save, and you're done. Really. So now let's go into our live example, refresh. We should be able to now connect that form, but I haven't created that button yet. So now we need to create that button to connect to that window overlay or overlay window. So let's go back into Designer, go back to Manage Projects, and to create that button, you select your data part, and here on the right-hand side, you're going to be able to see header controls, toolbar controls, and record controls. Header controls refer specifically to this section up here. Okay? Record controls are inside the records. Okay? And toolbar controls are also inside the records, but they behave a little bit differently. But we want to just focus on header controls for now. We're going to click Add, enter our label, so let's just call it Add Project, and we want to link to an app page that we just created called Add Project. And remember, this is a window overlay. Okay, so we select that app page, click Save. We should be able to see that button up here, but let's go into our live example, reload, and now when you click on that button, it brings up that window where we can add a project. Okay. Let's see. Awesome, Nib. Please also bring float labels and the flex style into Bridge. Let's not forget Bridge, please. Yes, I will share that information. Okay. I think for right now, because team is focusing on Flex a lot more than Bridge, we are not going to leave Bridge, okay? We're always going to have two frameworks, okay? Because we understand that the main difference between the two frameworks, if you ask me, well, there are a couple of differences, but the main difference is with Bridge, it's a little bit more sophisticated in terms of aesthetics and styling. Okay, and you embed Bridge applications into your own website. So if you have your own brand, your own company website, your own logo, your own navigation menu with your own colors, you embed Caspio Bridge applications into your own site. Okay, that's the main driver of a Caspio Bridge. With Flex, Caspio hosts everything for you, from your logo, your navigation menu, so you don't have to worry about having a website. Okay. So that's the power of Flex. It's meant for users who don't have to worry about passing parameters, embedding anything into their own website. Now, the drawback to Flex today is that you cannot really customize the aesthetics as much as you can in Bridge. But that'll change too over time, okay? Yeah, thanks, Didier. I appreciate it. So let's add a project. Why don't we create one very quickly here? We'll call this project recreate the company logo. We need to get this done by the end of month. Okay, something arbitrary. Project owner can be John Doe. We are logged in as John Doe. Start date can be today, and we need to finish this by end of month, and status can be not started. We're going to hit submit. Now notice that the window did not close. Okay, so that's also something very cool, is that as I mentioned in my live example at the beginning of the live stream, as you add these projects, you can see them down here, or you can actually sort this to have this appear at the very top because it is the most recent one. But you can also automatically close that window, and that's all controlled inside the designer. So if you go back to add project and you select that data part, over here on the right hand side, you're going to see destination page. So show floating confirmation, it keeps the window open, or you can go to an app page, select manage projects, and that's it. So now what's going to happen is when you add another project, we need to redo the home page. Our home page is out of date. Please work on this. Something like that. Just making things up. A project owner can be Ken Lee. Start date today. That might take a little bit longer, so let's give them a few months to finish that. And status can be not started. Now, as soon as I hit submit, It's going to close that window, and we should be able to see that listed down here at the bottom. Okay, so you have a couple of options here to keep that overlay window open or close it upon submission. Next, let's create a details button to take us into project details. Okay, so we go back inside Designer. We add a new app page called Project Details. Click on the Users segment, click Add. Again, this is just a personal preference. You can continue building and then deploy later. I always like to deploy right away. Go back to Designer. All right, so there's my project details. I don't need to have these two visible in my navigation menu, right? So if I reload, there's no need for this to be visible in my navigation menu. I know how to get to add projects by clicking on this button over here, okay? So you go back into your segment, you click on the navigation menu. The only one that I want visible is manage projects. The other two, we can just hide them. So there's a little eye icon here that you can click on, and it's going to hide both of those from the navigation menu. So let's go back into project details, and you can always test that out by going back to your website, refreshing, and now you will see just one button. All right, so what do we want to build inside the project details? Well, I know I need to be able to display the project, right? So that's number one. So let's add element, and we want the details. And that's going to be based on the projects table. And I want to be able to display the name, the description, owner, start date, end date, status, and date created. Click next. Do I need to make any modifications here? I don't think I need to make any modifications. So we can just simply click on save. I will likely change the size of this so I can fit my tasks and I can fit my project members. So again, name your data part, users, project details. Add your heading. I always kind of go back and forth here because I need to come back here and grab it. So we'll just copy that. I don't want to have to type it all out. Project details, add my heading here, and we'll just call this project details. Hopefully you're seeing how easy it is to use Flex and how quickly we can build these things out. If I'm not explaining anything, I can build this very quickly. In fact, it took me, I would say, maybe 40 minutes to build all of that, what I showed you at the very beginning. I had my project management application up and running so quickly that really, because I don't have to embed now, I don't have to pass parameters, I don't have to worry about the aesthetics as much. Because I'm embedding into my own website, I can use Flex and build it much faster than I could with Bridge. Okay, just to be fully transparent with you. I think Bridge is faster. However, I know that a lot of people who build these applications want to embed them into their own website, so it might take you a little bit longer because you have to tweak the aesthetics, the styling, the layout, so it looks and feels like it's part of your site. All right, there's my project details. This actually needs to be display only as well, so let's modify that. Let me come back here and change the project owner to be display only. There we go, save. Okay, now again, even I fall into this habit of forgetting to set up my filters. Okay, it's very important to set up your filters. Okay, because what ends up happening is, and I've caught myself a few times, if I refresh, I don't have my details button yet. So let's create the details button. Let's go back to manage projects, click on this data part, and let's add record controls. So we're going to click on this and let's call this details action. Go to an app page, project details, the one that we just created, and we're going to hit save. And now let's say we click on Echo Trail, the very first one. We see Echo Trail. However, because it's the very first one, right? If I go back to manage projects and let's say we click on API Key Manager, it's still going to show me Echo Trails. Okay, so you have to set up your filters in order to see the data that you need to see. So let's go back into Designer, go to Project Details, select that data part, set up the filter, create the filter, and what you want is for the project ID to equal to, select your data part, and you're going to select Manage Projects, this one here. That's what your results page is. Manage Projects, Project Results, project ID, and you click save. So now when you click on the details of a project, you're going to be able to see the project details that equal that project ID, and you hit save. So I always like to test things out. I go back to my website. Let's click on Shelfwise. And there's Shelfwise. Let's go back to manage projects. Let's click on maybe, well, API key manager. All right, so it's working correctly. Okay, we set up our filter. Now what we want to do is in the project details, if we go to my other live example, we have the ability to edit, right? So we have another window overlay where I allow people to edit projects, but only the project owners that are assigned to that specific project have the ability to edit. All right, back inside of Designer, we want to set up another app page. So we're going to call this one Edit Project. Click Add. This one here, again, go back to Deployment, Deploy, back inside Designer, select that app page and make it an overlay window. Okay, we're going to add elements and we want Update Form, Projects Table. And what information do we need to have the ability to edit? Well, we need to edit project name, description. We want to be able to maybe reassign the project owner, start date, end date, status, and we don't really need to worry about date created, but if you want to display, you'll be able to see when it was created, you can include that. So project name is going to be a text field required with the appearance of float. Project description will be a text area required with the appearance of float. So just go through each one of these. Project owner is going to be a drop down that's already set up for us. Float, start date, text field. And I know we have to go back and forth a little bit, but the only reason why is because I really like float. I feel like float should be the default label position, but they made the left label to the left of the field be the default position. But end date, text field, required, appearance float, and status is going to be a drop down. That links to our lookup table of all the statuses, required, and also float. All right, let me make sure I am using float for all of these, and let me make sure I required all of my fields. I did. Okay, so that's it. Let's go ahead and save. Let's name this data part users edit project and hit save. Let me make sure I don't need to do anything else here. I think I'm okay with that. But let's take a look now. Now that it's live, what we need to do is we need to connect this form to our project details. So what we need to do is select this data part, and using the header controls, we need to add label edit and select the app page that allows us to edit project and hit save. Now we're going to be able to see that button up here. And let's go into our live example, refresh, edit. Perfect. Okay. However, now you can see that I always forget to do this myself. It's not displaying Shelfwise, it's displaying Echo Trail. Okay, so we need to connect it again using filters so that we edit that proper project. Okay, so let's go back into Designer, select our edit project, select the data part. So if you ever see that, for example, if you click on a record and you see something else entirely, that means you haven't set up your filters. Okay, so let's set up the filter, and it's a very simple setup. We want the project ID to equal to, select the data part, project details. Okay, that's where your data part is, inside the project details app page. So select that one, project details, project ID, hit save, save, we're done. Come back here. And I should be able to see Shelfwise, but I always like to double check, make sure everything works properly. Let's go to a different project, maybe the API key, into the details, and allow me to edit just the API key manager. But I can't, so this is perfect, right? Because the project owner is Raj Singh, so it's working exactly how I want. I'm not the project owner of this project, so I definitely don't want the ability to edit as John Doe, okay? Okay, let me take a look at the comment here. Cascading dropdown in Flex has this requirement that fields should be named the same. It's making it very difficult to convert apps that were built in Bridge to be used in Flex. Please look into it. Okay, can you send me an email on that, Didier? I have to kind of put it to the test myself and see exactly what that means because I haven't run into that yet. And because you mentioned that, a lot of people ask me, can I use Flex with Bridge or vice versa? Okay. You cannot use Flex with Bridge, but you can use Bridge data pages inside Flex. Okay. So when you create these app pages, and let's say you wanted to add your data page inside this app page, you can add elements and you're going to have to select the HTML data part. And then you use the data page embed code inside that HTML data part. Okay. Both Flex and Bridge share the same underlying data. Okay, so the tables can be shared between Bridge and Flex. Okay. However, when it comes to forms and reports, you can only embed data pages inside Flex, but you cannot take data parts and put them inside Bridge. It doesn't work that way. What you can do, however, when you go to deployment, you can embed app pages. So let's say, for example, manage projects, we know that it has the search form and the ability to see the results. What you could do is you can take the deployment code, copy it, and use that in your own website. Okay, so it gets a little bit tricky. Sometimes it's a little bit inexplicable, hard to explain how it all comes together, but you can take your app pages and embed them into your own website if you wanted to. You just can't take an individual data part and embed it, but the entire app page you can. So if you have one data part inside the app page, I guess technically that's still just one data part that can be embedded into your own website. Okay. And while it is possible, I mean, why would you do that? Caspio already hosts everything for you from your logo, your navigation menu. So, I mean, I don't see a point of embedding Flex applications into your own website, but it is available for you. We made it available so that you can do that. Okay. But if you're going to be embedding anything into your own website, then I recommend Bridge because it's more customizable in terms of aesthetics and look and feel. Cool. Please check the login redirection too. What is the login redirection comment or question for? Is anyone else excited about Flex and the capabilities that are coming behind the Flex framework? I'm just curious, based on what you're seeing here, how easy it is to put things together. Are you able to see how quickly and how efficiently you can build apps using Flex? Because everything is hosted and because everything is all within this one designer tab, you can see everything in real time as you're building it. Okay, hey Judith, good to see you as well. I was wondering if you're going to be able to make it today. Good to see you. Flex should also look into login redirection for when you choose to deploy into your own site. Right now it's limited. I see, because it's based on directories. Directories is closely integrated with Flex. So there is no single login screen that redirects based on the user. So it still uses, still uses the directory. You cannot take the login screen and put it into your own site. I see what you're saying. Okay. Okay. It's nice you get jammed up on apps due to lack. Yeah, it's still lacking some features, Jeremy. You're right. Compared to Bridge, because Bridge has been around for over 20 years, whereas Flex it's only been around for a year. But believe me, what's coming around the corner, you're going to be very happy. We can now also do with the release 60, you can now do calculations inside reports using calculated values. So that's available now in Flex after the release 60, which wasn't available previously. Anyway, let me check the time. I am running out of time. I was hoping to be able to build a few more things. But again, because building this from scratch takes time, I have to explain things. It eats up our time very quickly. But maybe we have time just for one more data part to be able to display the tasks. And then on the following live stream, we can complete a few more data parts. But the whole point here is to just show you how to begin, how to get started, and give you an idea how all of these data parts come together, just so you can start thinking about, okay, so that's pretty cool. I can add buttons up here that control other data parts. Yeah, let's build a few more things here. Just maybe 2 more data parts very quickly. I would like to build an app page that shows me my tasks. So why don't we call that manage tasks? Manage tasks, or maybe project tasks. Let's call it project tasks, because these tasks belong to this project. Users. Okay, deployment, publish, go back to designer. I don't know why I just did that. It's actually, let me remove that app page. We don't need that app page. We need to create a data part that's going to display our tasks, right? So let's add an element inside this app page here. Okay, so we want tabular data part. Let's go with the task table, and we want to be able to display the task title, who that task is assigned to. We know that it's going to be for that project, so we don't need to include the project ID. We want the due date, status, priority. We don't need to create it by ID. But if you have to go, I understand. Please go. This is going to be available as a video later on to watch if you want to see more for this application. If you want to stick around, just keep the live stream open so we don't lose the attendance. That's great as well. I appreciate that, but I understand if you have to run, feel free to leave, okay? But we're going to take another 5 or 10 minutes to just build a few more things, and then we're going to sign off for today's live stream. So we have these fields that we want to include. Next, I don't need in my label for the column heading to display ID, so just assign to will suffice. Click save. And let's just resize this a little bit, maybe like that. And we're going to move this up next to my project details. I also don't really need to have this be that wide. Just adjust that. Name the data part, the users, project tasks. And again, we're going to go over here, grab our heading, copy it, come back here and just paste it. And we're going to call this project tasks. Okay. Description and set the filter, very important, because we want to be able to display the tasks that belong to that project. So we're going to set the filter, create the filter, project ID is equal to, select the data part, manage projects, project results, project ID, click save, and let's come back here into manage projects. And I know that I have some tasks for Echo Trail. We're going to click details, and there are my project tasks. And I'm going to leave you with this. Just build one more data part to add a task to this data part, okay? I see Caspio flexing. It's a good pun. I like that. Sum at the bottom of the tabular report. Yeah, we don't have aggregations yet. You can do a sum or any formula on the column. Okay, so if you have data in 2 columns, you can do a calculation in the 3rd column. Or if you have 3 columns, you can do a calculation in the 4th column. That's what we can calculate. But at the aggregation at the bottom, we don't have that yet, but we will. If you made these sessions more often, we would have been nicer to you, Ned. Now you have to deal with all of the questions. Yeah, I know. We have to catch up to a year of not having any live streams. But I mean, I understand. I knew I was gonna get a lot of questions because there's this elephant in the room of having 2 different frameworks now, and a lot of people have questions about, you know, which way should I build my applications? You know, which framework should I use to build my applications? And I always tell people, if you have your own website and you wish the application to reside on your own website, Bridge is probably a better option, okay? But if you don't have a website, if you want to build something up and running quickly, Flex is probably the better option. Just keep in mind that Flex is not as advanced as Bridge yet, because it's a newer framework compared to Bridge. But I mean, there's still a lot of power in it. You can see I'm building this whole project management application from scratch here. And I haven't run into any issues where I don't have this feature available for me. All right, let's quickly add a task to this data part. So let's come back here and create a new app page. This time I do need a new app page, and we're going to call this add task. And go to deployment, deploy it, come back here, and let me just click on the user segment so that we can hide these from the navigation menu. They don't need to be visible. So add task, again, add task is going to be an overlay window. Add elements, submission form. Okay, so before I can add the task, this one's going to be a little bit tricky. I have to set up the view based on the user table and the projects table. So I cannot set this one until I have set up my project members data part, just because when you add a project member into that project and you add a task, I only need to be able to see the members that are assigned to that project. So this one will have to wait for now. Why don't we create a data part that lists all of the project members? Okay, so we're going to build this data part. Tabular report, project members, and I really just need to display the project member's name. I don't need any of these other fields. I just want to be able to display the project members here. Okay, we're going to hit next. And we're going to call this just name of the member. Click save. It's going to be at the very bottom. Let me just resize this and let's move it up. All right, so real quickly, we'll just grab this here, copy it, heading project members, and let's name this data part users, project members. Let me just refresh, because I do need to set up the filter on this one. Don't worry about the ID. We should be able to swap out the ID with the actual name, but I need to set up my filter on this one as well, based on the project. So project ID is equal to data part field manage projects, project results, project ID, save. So that only displays the project members that are assigned to that project. All right, so this one does have 5 actually, so that's correct. Now the reason why I'm not seeing the name displayed, which shouldn't be the case because I did set up my relationships. So the user table with the project members live is displaying the full name, display value, save. That's strange. Why is it not displaying the name of the user? Is it because I'm inside the preview site? That's interesting. This needs to be replaced with the name of the user, but it's not doing that for some reason, unless I did not set it up correctly. I hate when this happens. I don't like to do this live. This really should be displaying the name of the user because it's based on this table, and I've created my relationships to pull the full name from the user table and replace the ID. So don't want to waste time on something like that. Well, in any case, let me have the ability to add a project member to this table. So we're going to now add a button here on this data part. So under the header controls, we're going to just simply say, well, I can't do this until I create my app page to add a member. So let's create add member for the user segment. We're going to deploy it like that. Go back to designer, add member. That's going to be an overlay window as well. Add elements, submission form from this table. And I need to just add the user. That's correct. Let's make sure I get this right. We also want to add it for a specific project. So we are going to hit next. Let me move this one up. The project ID, because it needs to cascade based on the project that's received in order to add the user to that project. If I built that correctly, let me just make that field hidden. Insert the project ID, data part field, project details, project details, project ID, hit insert, and then the user ID is going to be a drop down that selects from the user table and hit save. So it really should just display one field, except I just want to make sure I change my label here. User ID, appearance, float, and just call it user and hit save. So it looks like that. Let me make sure I did that correctly. I have this application already built, but sometimes when I run out of time, I know we're past 10 minutes past our time. My mind is just going into overdrive, trying to get things done quickly, and I don't want to miss something. So project management, designer, add task, add member, add project member. Let me make sure I did that correctly. Project ID, yeah, data part field, project users. Project details, users, project, and okay, user ID, name, project management users. Yeah, that looks correct. Data part field, project details, users. Yeah, that's correct. So I did that correctly. All right. So let's come back here and let's make sure we add that button to our project details to add a member. All right, so we're gonna go to our header controls and add member, and we're gonna select that app page that allows us to add a member, which is the overlay window. Okay, so let's go into our live example. All right, so now we should be able to add a member. Yeah, okay, so that's correct. However, I should not be able to add any more of members to this project because we have that formula that prevents duplicates, right? So I wish I was seeing the names of the users here. Let me go into this one here, make sure I did that correctly. I'm pretty sure that I did, but let's go to project details. Let's click on project members, and let me make sure I set this up correctly. So it's based on the joining table. I use the user ID field. Yeah, I mean, that is correct. And based on that table. So now we gotta look into why that's not showing all the information for us. So yeah, that was a little bit interesting why that's not showing my name project members. I'll have to look into it a little bit. Yeah, this is the table, user ID, There's nothing else I needed to do there. You really should just display the name of the user because I've set up my relationships that way. Let's just make sure we look into it one more time. Project member user table, which is LI, user ID, project members live, user ID, and I'm using the full name, display value. Interesting. I'll have to check. Don't save. And maybe it's something that I'm missing. Maybe I did not do something correctly. I'm trying to think here live. But okay. We'll leave it at that because I just don't know what else I need to do here. Why don't we stop here? I will try to find a fix for this. And then in the next live stream, we're going to spend about 10 or 15 minutes right away to create a few more of these app pages and data parts. But because the question came out about AI, I do want to show one quick example of that. I built this very simple patient portal demo. And what I'm doing is inside this health snapshot, you can see this is also a overlay window. I have a data part for my chart, and I also have a report that does some calculations with some SQL statements. And the AI is basically able to take in some of these health metrics, for example, BMI, pulse, temp, blood pressure reading, and based on the numbers, AI can categorize the health sentiment as poor, excellent, good, very good, automatically for me. And just to show you, let's go to deployment and let's log in as the doctor. We're going to go to manage patients. Let me log in as John Doe at doctor.com. Since I did have that question come up, and I'll show you how I set that up as well inside Caspio, right? So we have a list of patients. Again, using overlay windows, we can add a patient. We can also add a visit as the patient comes into our practice. And here we submit some information. So let's test it out really quickly. Why not? So for Ken Lee, he came in today. Let's say we do something drastic so that you can see how AI can determine if it's poor health or excellent health. So why don't we say Ken Lee is 5'10", and maybe he's overweight. Let's say he weighs 300 pounds, which should put the BMI at 43. Pulse maybe 101, which resting pulse should be, anywhere between 60 and 70. Temperature, let's say normal temp. And blood pressure reading, why don't we just say, I don't know, 185 over 125. I hope nobody ever has that type of blood pressure because that's really high. And we'll just say NA for doctor notes and hit submit. Right, so if you think about it, that really should be poor health. Okay, so for Ken Lee, we're going to go to our health snapshot now, where we have two different data parts embedded. So we have the health readings. This is the most recent visit. And then where is the most recent visit? Today is the very poor health. So that's on very extreme. Okay, so based on all this information that we're getting, AI was able to determine that it was very poor health. Now the shock index status is taking the pulse divided by the systolic blood pressure, right? Which is usually if the systolic blood pressure is lower than the pulse. That's when you get a value that's over 0.9, and that's one of the metrics that doctors look at. So if your systolic blood pressure is less than your pulse, you could be in jeopardy of having a shock, some kind of shock. I didn't really read into it too much, but we're getting the pass or fail based on that. All right. The new Caspio live stream schedule is still going to be bi-weekly. Okay, it's going to be bi-weekly. So the next one is going to be on the 21st of May. Okay, but let me show you this AI setup before I answer that question very quickly. And then we really have to sign up because we're spending too much time on the live stream today. But to set up your AI, you're simply going to go to integrations, and you're going to want to add AI-powered GPT Connect. It's very simple to add. You just click on the add button, and it's going to be added to your account. You open it, and then provide health sentiment. This is my agent that I created. It's all point and click. The first thing that I have is the name of my agent, and then you can select the profile depending on the AI model that you want. I simply just chose default, but you can also have a different AI model. Okay, I'm going with default. You hit next. Then you select a table where you want the AI response to be stored. Okay, this is going to be our, health visit table, whatever table you have in your application. And I want that health sentiment to be stored upon submission. So when I submit the form for the patient's visit, where I input the BMI, the blood pressure readings and all that, and I hit submit, the agent is going to be triggered based on the insert. That's the event. And then you provide a very simple prompt, the instructions to AI of what you want to store back into your table. And as you can see, analyze the following health data and categorize the result as either excellent, good, fair, poor, very poor. And I'm feeding this information to OpenAI. Okay, the BMI, the pulse, the temp, and the blood pressure readings. I hit next, and here's the field where I want the response to be stored in my table. It's all automated, right? So as soon as I submit the form, I provide this data to OpenAI, and then it writes it back into my table in one of those categories. That's it. It's really as simple as that, okay? And I have other examples here as well, agents that I've created in the past. Some really exciting ones is that you can also send an image to OpenAI, like a receipt, and we can extract information from that image, such as location, total, date that we dined or had food there, and it'll extract all that information, and you can have that information be populated into a number of different fields, not just one. Okay, that's another example. Or if you have, let's say you have a lead form, And on that lead form, you're only collecting the company name, but you want to get more information about that company, such as company description or number of employees or annual revenue, whatever information you want about that company. And you don't want the user to fill that out because it's tedious, it's overwhelming. Why would I want to spend my time filling out my name, my description, my number of employees, all of that? Just ask OpenAI. If it has information about that company, it'll feed that information into your table automatically. Okay? So there's some really cool things that you can do with AI by creating these agents and feeding information back into your tables. Good question. What are those health scores measured against? Well, you can also feed that to OpenAI if you want. You can tell in the instructions, you can tell OpenAI only give me data with, I don't know, that are up to date with the latest health metrics for 2025 or something like that, right? Because I know the blood pressure readings recently, I don't know who made the change, but they made the change what is defined by stage 1 hypertension and stage 2 hypertension, because that switch was made, I don't know, I feel like it was just maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Like, for example, before, anything above 80 and to 90 was pre-hypertension stage 1. But now they made a change from 90 to 100 to be hypertension stage 1, and anything over 90 is like hypertension stage 2. So I don't know exactly, but you can give those instructions to OpenAI as part of your instructions to really compare these results to the most up-to-date health data or health regulations or however you want to call it. It's a good question. That's a good question, you know. I think it puts it up against maybe what the latest health regulations and standards are. I don't really know, but you can be specific in your instructions to OpenAI on what you want. Okay, so let me take a look and let me answer a lot of these questions now. So if you have these sessions, be nice. I am new to Caspio, so this is not exciting to me yet. I am barely absorbing things, taking over a grant database maintenance. Okay, so I'm guessing, Yedida, if you're still on the call, you are probably getting thrown into Bridge. And Bridge, uses a completely different way of building apps. So I can understand why this might not be as exciting for you. It takes a little bit of, oh, you're still here. Good. It takes a little bit of time, especially with the learning curve, to learn how to use these frameworks. Bridge is a little bit more technically challenging because there are more steps to building the application versus Flex. So if your entire application is built in Bridge, then yes, you will have to learn how to use Bridge, which is a little bit different than Flex. But today I'm just showing how to use Flex in today's live stream, which is a whole new way of building applications in Caspio. Okay, because now Caspio provides two different platforms or two different frameworks for building applications. You're likely thrown into Bridge applications, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. You still have your tables just like in Flex, but now instead of seeing Designer and you see everything how it's built in real time in preview mode, data pages are individual components or interfaces that are embedded into your own website, and you have to know how to modify and edit these data pages. Okay, so I'm sorry if today's live stream wasn't exactly helpful, but hopefully, I guess the hope is that if the team at your organization is comfortable switching from Bridge at some point to Flex, it might make your life a little bit easier to recreate all of these things in Flex, because Flex is easier to use than Bridge and much easier to manage the applications. But I understand the predicament that you're in. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't focus in helping you fix and learn how to use your application, but hopefully the goal eventually for you is to try to recreate some of these parts in Flex, and then it'll be a lot easier for you to manage everything as well. So sorry if that wasn't a good answer for you that you were hoping for, but hopefully it'll be exciting at one point when you learn how to use both Bridge and Flex if you choose to do that. How do we get the conditional formatting, the rows with different colors? I know what you're asking me. You're talking about this. Now, this also requires a little bit of custom work. I was debating if I should show this because it's not a built-in thing. It will be a built-in thing in the future because it's also on the roadmap to do something like that. But if you want to do it today, I shouldn't have shown you this. It's also somewhat challenging to do because one, I didn't want to show this, but since you asked, number one, you have to have a field. I call the row color, and there's a formula, which is a conditional case statement. Case when new color one. So you assign a attribute to each one of these statuses, color 2, color 3, color, depending on how many statuses you might have. Okay, new, active, inactive, established, pending. Then, when you do that, inside the segment, you can see this little tiny square. Basically, it's this widget here that you can add, text HTML. Then inside the code, you use a little bit of styling to actually apply a hex code to that color 3, color 2, color 4, color 5, right? Right? And then finally, inside the data part itself, also a little bit of work is needed to add an HTML block, and it's very simple, just a single line that calls out that field in your table. That's it. That's how it's done. 3 steps. First the formula, then the style in the header of the segment, and then you add the HTML block to call out that color from your table. Okay. Honestly, like if this is something that you have a need for, if you want to do it, send me an email. Everyone should have my email. If you don't, here it is in the chat window. Shoot me an email and I will send you the solution so you can implement that in your account. Curious, what are those? I'm here. Okay, so Steven, haven't seen you in a while. Didn't you have a second kid, or are you working on it? No. 2 and done. No more kids. 2 boys, double trouble. That's a lot of work as it is. Yeah, thank you, Steven. Yeah, my firstborn is almost 3, believe it or not, and my second is almost 1, and they could not be more different in every single way. Everything, personality, looks, they are completely different. My second boy has blue eyes. Both my wife and I, she has hazel eyes, I have brown eyes, but my dad has blue eyes, so genetics really did their part there. So he's got my dad's eyes. He's got blonde hair. The other one is brown hair, brunette, whatever you want to call it. But even in personality wise, my older son is more serious. He likes to focus and work on things. You can see him trying to figure things out. Whereas my second boy, he is just all over the place. He's smiling at everything. He is climbing everything. He wants to put everything in his mouth. It's just wild how different they are. It's going to be interesting when my second one starts to walk too, to see how things will unravel. Thanks for the information. I'm just going to jump on all the training to see how it will help me. You're welcome, Edita. I hope I'm pronouncing it. I don't know if it's Idita or Edita, but hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah, take the training for both Flex and Bridge. I promise you one thing, if you're still on the call, that it's a bit of a learning curve, okay? But once you learn it, you will get it, okay? Just take the time to edit a few data pages. Once you see how you can add a field, remove a field, maybe change a label, you will understand how it works from both the back end perspective and also the front end. Because when you make a change in the back end, it's going to affect the front end, right? So for example, if you're inside the platform and you remove a field, or you add a field, or you change a label and you hit save, on the front end where that application is deployed, you're going to see that change take effect. Okay. All right. So thank you all so much. We are actually hitting our time limit here for 30 minutes past the regular hour. I appreciate all of you who stuck around. Thank you so much for coming back to these live streams. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed today's session. In 2 weeks, we're going to build a few more data parts for our project management application, and then we're going to move on to another use case. Now, if you want to see something in Bridge, let me know. Okay, and again, like I said at the beginning of my live stream, I will try to strike a fine balance between the two frameworks because I don't want to leave bridge users in the dark, okay, with these live streams, because I was told to focus on flex, so that's what I have to do. But if there's something you want to learn in bridge, let me know and we will bring it into the live stream. All right. With all that said, thank you again so much for your time. I am going to close the live stream now. I hope to see you in 2 weeks. We're going to continue to learn how to use Flex, but we will also visit Bridge too from time to time if the need arises. Have a good day, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Take care. Bye bye.